Dear students, I am Abdul Rahman, Assistant Professor of English, Government First Grade College, Chennagiri. I am discussing today in this session about Victorian Literature Part 1, which is prescribed for BA, Optional English, 5th semester, Davangere University. This is my 15th session. Now, let us try to learn the poem Tears, Idle Tears, written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. This is the photography of Alfred Lord Tennyson. So, as far Alfred Lord Tennyson is concerned, that we have learnt about the narrative techniques of Alfred Lord Tennyson, the styles, and then we have in the last class analyzed the poem Ulysses. So now today let us have a discussion on the poem Tears and Idle Tears. Before going to start discussion about the poem, that we have to understand about the objectives of this session, that our students will be able to understand the poet's emotion through this lecturing, and the outcome, the expectation of the students after listening this poem, that the students will be able to feel the pain and deep despair when we lost our friends and loved ones with the passage of time. So the next the contents that uh, we have the contents about the poem, and before going to uh, detail about the poem, we need some major themes of the poem where Alfred Lord Tennyson has been used in his poetry. So the first major themes that we can say, the bittersweet nature of memory and loss, where we find that the speaker wonders at the source of divine despair. You know, a deep but vague sadness brought about by looking at the Ottoman landscape and thinking about the past, the tears and idle, but also linked to the death of friends, the memory of past love and changes in nature, the bitter sweet nature of memory focused on the grief that arises when all that has been lost with the passage of time. The poem doesn't explain this grief but focuses on the contrast of recalling happy days, which nonetheless makes the speaker sad because they are no more. We have the theme of death in this poem. The poet who laments the loss of his beloved friend and presents his mental state is death in life. It changes everything, even the perception of beauty in a person's life. We have the theme of love in this poem, that the poet has a sense of grief. It is love for a friend whose presence makes the poet happy and satisfied. So the poet uses the image of the ship which can bring his friend from the dismal abyss of death. And we have the theme of sadness also. Here the poet is sad, but he has not lost his senses. He knows the beautiful things of nature which once gave pleasure to the poet remain the same. What change is the absence of his mind, of absence of his friend. The poet is sorrowful because the autumn fields and the twittering of birds at dawn remind him of his friend Hallam, Arthur Hallam. He has lost here. Tears, Idle Tears is one of the sweet songs which has been collected from the Princess, an anthology of poem, a long poem, you know, which incorporates the author's view on women's movements and their education also. You know, the song is written in blank verse, but which is rich with sweet melody and charmness. This poem is one of the most touching and captivating poems in English poetry. So it took shape on the yellowing autumn tide at Tinton Abbey. So, in the first stanza of the poem, the poet calls the tears idle tears because they are useless and cannot recall what is now past. You know, so at the same time, it is not clear as to what they indicate. The poem is a lyric breathing despair and sadness. Tears appears in the eyes of the poet on looking at the happy autumn fields. The sight of the fields recalls to his mind the sweet memory of his happy bygone days. In the second stanza of the poem, the poet is describing the effect of which the recollection of his past days produce on him. So the days are fresh like sunbeams on a sail that is bringing friends up from the underworld, and sad like the lost beam taking them aback again. The effect is as painful as the sight of the ship which is sailing off in the faint glow of the evening sun, taking our loved ones from us and despairing below the horizon. In the third stanza of the poem, the past as not fresh but sad and strange. The past days are sad and strange, you know, like dawn in the summer when birds are singing so early and a dying person hears them with sadness. Well, who lies watching the glimmering square of sunlight as it appears through a square window. So, to amplify his senses, he employs the simile of a dying man. You know, the entire situation is saddening to a dying man, and similar is the case when he recollects of bygone days. In the fourth stanza of the poem, you know, that the past as so dear, sweet, deep, and wild. The speaker declares the past as so dear, sweet, deep, and wild. His past is still as dear as the memory of the kisses of his beloved, who is now dead. It is as sweet as those kisses that we imagine ourselves in relation to other. The past is as deep as the first love, as wild as the regret that usually follows this experience. The speaker visualizes the past as a death in life. He is still alive, but the memory of the past is haunting him frequently. So, as it is also present like the imaginative kisses of a rejected lover on the lips of a girl whose affection is now for another lover whom she has married. So, the days that are no more become a part of our existence, and thus, by their remembrance, we begin to experience pain. So, this is the end of the poem, which gives us a lot of details about the experience of a lover and beloved here. So we have five multiple choice questions here. You have to answer these, and answer also given here in this slide. You know, for assignments are concerned, you have been given assignments on the theme of the death presented in the poem Tears, Idle Tears. and you can comment on the poem Tears, Idle Tears, as both beautiful and painful. So, this is the reference that you can collect more information from these following, these given books. You know, go through the website here, here, and then collect more information about the poem. Thank you for listening me, and thank you for watching me. Thank you once and all.